Okie doke. Well, welcome everybody to this edition of Solar Noon Tuesday. There you go, my intro there. And I know I spoke with Tim Chavez. He's going to pop on here soon. He wanted to talk a little bit about Enphase monitoring system. So we'll see how that works out. But the news that I've got this week, it's interesting. PG&E out in California has announced they're going to do a partnership. They're doing a test virtual power plant partnership. And I think this is one of those things we're going to see a lot more of, a lot more discussion on it. And what the utilities are envisioning is rather than building a power plant or even building a solar array, just partner in with some of your existing customers and use their array, use their storage capacity and create essentially a virtual power plant. So that's the concept there. And this pilot program with PG&E is partnering in with LG Storage, so LG Chem Storage, a company called SunVerge, which has a software platform for distributed energy, and Eaton smart circuit breakers. So those three components then allow the utility to start looking at real-time pricing structure. So we see some of these with tiered pricing. So they have, low, medium, high demand pricing. Well, now they're going to be looking, I guess, minute by minute, second by second pricing of electricity, which is going to be pretty interesting. Confusing, I suspect, for some people. Load shifting, which was a term we're all hopefully quite familiar with. And one that I hadn't seen, load shaping, which I'm assuming means, controlled by the utility as opposed to controlled by the consumer. I'll have to look into those terminologies a bit. But that would be controlling of the loads by the utility as opposed to controlling of the loads by the customer. And they also said event-based demand response, which is another interesting term. So I guess demand response, it sounds a lot like load shaping to me anyway, where they can change the demand out there. One of the things that they've talked a lot about in podcasts and things like that I've heard is utilities in the past have always only been able to control the supply. Now they're trying to get into controlling the load demand as well to try and balance supply with demand. So those are just two tools, and we're seeing people now shifting more towards that second one away from the first, because honestly, the utilities have less control over load supply when we have distributed energy sources. Before, when they controlled all of the supply, then they had total control over that, but they don't have that control now. So I just found that as an interesting development that was just announced. They're looking at that at quarter 1, 2022. So really just a few months away, this pilot program will begin. Something we're going to hear a lot about. The U.S. International Trade Commission recommended that the tariffs be extended on solar panels against China. Now, they don't have the final word. It goes now to the Biden administration, and the Biden administration has the final word. They held their hearing last week. SEIA, the Solar Energy Industry Association, was an opponent to the extension. They testified against it. They claimed that the current tariffs have cost America 62,000 solar jobs, including 6,000 in manufacturing. I guess they can claim whatever, but it's interesting that the industry association is basically saying this is a problematic. And there was an interesting side article that I looked into. Apparently in 2011, there was a company, a solar cell manufacturing company located in Washington State called Solar World, and they filed a petition against China because China was dumping solar cells on the US market. So this sounds very familiar. Currently, these things are solar panels that they're arguing about. So in 2000 and I think it was about 2011, yeah, the US government imposed a 35% tariff on solar cells imported from China. At the time, the US produced about 24% of all solar cells globally. So this is about 10 years ago. China responded by placing tariffs on US cells going into China. And when the US tried to source solar cells from other countries, South Korea and Taiwan primarily, China extended the tariffs against those countries as well, which essentially wiped out more than half of their market share, and more than half of the US's market share, because more than half of the cells we produce were being shipped and exported to China. And then China aggressively subsidized the solar cell manufacturing industry and essentially wiped out all other countries' solar cell production, essentially. So the US has zero production of solar cells today. Whereas 10 years ago, it was about 24%. So I guess I know we debated a little bit last week about the whole idea of tariffs, especially me and Don, or Don, it wasn't really a debate. It was like, yeah, what do you do?
Discussion, yeah.
You know, but I think China's better at playing this game than we are. So clearly, so I have a feeling these tariffs will remain ineffective. We may see a repeat where they starve out the American panel manufacturing. Who knows? Who knows? But my guess is, if I had to venture a guess, the Biden administration people are not very supportive of the solar tariffs, and I suspect they will not be extended. But when it comes to these kind of things, I'm usually wrong about everything. Another in news, Florida, the Republican legislature has introduced a bill, Senate Bill 1024, trying to do away with net metering. So essentially in Florida, once again, trying to get away from anybody owning solar panels. So it's really weird. It's a yin yang thing. There's some people trying to make it easier, some people trying to make it harder. So that's a thing. And then I had two announcements. There's a webinar tomorrow. I put it in the chat. I don't know if anybody can see it who just joined late. I see Don, you're looking. Can you see it?
No, it's not in there. Yeah.
I'll repost it here.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two. There's the webinar on ballasted systems, and then oops. All right, that's not working. Here we go. All right, and then also Suzanne from Design Energy is looking for solar installers. So if anybody knows of anybody who wants a job, there's lots of them out there. So anybody who can design and install solar panels, if they're looking for work, I can put you in touch with about 10 different companies that are looking to hire. So, but Suzanne sent that through, so I promised I'd pass it along. Hey, Bob, you got a question?
I've been looking for a job on the side here until I get going again. But everybody wants somebody younger and full-time.
Yeah. Yep, and disposable. You know, as soon as the job's done, they want rid of you. So that's problematic. You know, no wonder they're having trouble hiring. because they want people who will work 12 hours a day while the job is on and then go away as soon as the job is finished. And I don't think that's a very sustainable business model, but if you're young and full of vinegar and you just want to live in your van and go work on a project wherever, I mean, there's lots of opportunities.
And I've seen asking anywhere from $18 up to $40.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Eduardo, one of our students, when he was doing the work, they were paying like 25 bucks an hour to him for just kind of entry level work. So, Bill, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, you mentioned a webinar on ballasted systems. Do I contact Suzanne to find out how to tune into it?
No, that should be on. Did I get them both in there?
Like
There
just
should be
one.
a link. Should be a link there.
I'm not seeing a link. Well, maybe there's a more, well, I don't know.
All right.
It's got the description, but there's no link I can tell. I can see.
Okay. Okay, if you're interested, yeah, I'll try and post that link in there. I had it, let's see, well, we're right there on it.
I've got a question comment.
Sure.
So I was contacted by someone at the city of Houston this morning. Someone in a well-to-do section, a surgeon, in fact, has built a duplex, and he installed solar on it, and he did not get a permit. And apparently, the solar bridges the wall between the two parts of the duplex, and I was asked to go give my 2 cents on it. I haven't looked at it yet. They want to close on the construction, and of course this is preventing them from closing because they didn't get a permit for the solar. And I just throwing that out. If I were building a duplex and considering solar, number one, I would make sure the roof were configured for separate flat spots or places to put solar, and obviously I wouldn't go out and install before getting a permit because the city of Houston requires that. And I think they did everything wrong. I don't know. Any comments? I haven't looked at the place yet, so I don't know how easy it is to separate the already installed array into 2 distinct arrays. I don't even know whether they've been put in 2 inverters. I haven't found out yet.
Bill, is he selling it or is he renting the duplex?
I'm sorry?
Is he selling the duplex as 2 separate units, or is he renting it to people? Because if he's,
I don't know that either. All I know is he's a surgeon. He's probably, this is investment property. It's LEED certified.
Yeah.
I can't answer that.
The only reason I ask
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to interact with code enforcement in Houston. I know there's a punch list of things that need to be fixed, and it'll be interesting to see what they put on the punch list. I did an off-grid installation, 2-panel install for a container, and of course I had to get a permit because it was more than 50 watts, and it was a nightmare. You go up and speak to the and I respect the inspectors and all that stuff, but they just don't have any. They don't have any knowledge about solar. Right. I mean, some of them do, but the things they were telling me were, he pointed me to, well, okay, this is a solar edge system, and you got to have this and that, and they told me you had to have quick rapid shutdown, and I don't believe the NEC requires that for solar on a separate building. I think I've perhaps
as long as it's not occupied.
Right.
With people.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah, and we finally dropped the permit, went ahead and built it, and hope they don't come back on us.
Well, as my wife
But I'll
Annie likes to
report next
say,
week.
she likes
Yeah.
to say that you gotta know the rules before you can break them. So,
But Bill, my only comment was gonna be, is if the doctor's gonna own the whole thing, there's no real reason why he should have to separate the array.
as long as he owns the
Well,
whole building, I wouldn't
yeah.
think.
Right.
Yeah, I'll find out. I'll go look at it tomorrow probably, and then get the scoop, and I'll let you know next week.
Yeah, it could be that if it's separately deeded, then that becomes a problem because it could be sold in the future. So, if it's divisible,
That's true, but a lot of places like here in town, if you own two contiguous spots, it depends on your city or your state, but like the law here is if you own two contiguous pieces, it's deemed to be one piece for all issues of building across the line and stuff.
yeah, it would be a problem when he tries to sell half, but it should be okay
Well,
today.
Yeah, but he might not be able to sell half of that. If you might be locking yourself in.
Yeah.
This is a
Tim,
practical matter.
you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, I just think the first thing you got to do is just submit a permit for a
Yeah.
permit, and then
Well, that
that's-
is
that's
kind of first.
that's the
step.
first step you got to go, and then from there you get the input from the city officials and move along with it.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's-
whether it's separately metered or not, you could just throw everything into one meter.
that's-
Oh, no, I don't think you'd have to have separate meters because even though we're not net metering state, if you turn the meter backwards, two separate power companies, come into the same building, possibly. We have the power to choose who we buy our energy from here. So separate meters would be required, it seems to me. The only thing to me, this is two houses, but they have a common wall, so it should be treated as two homes with a common wall. And the solar shouldn't be on the area where the separation between the two buildings is.
Yeah, I think that sort of points out, we have not really thought about roof space as part of the, useful structure of a building. It's always just been kind of literally the overhead, now we're starting to see that the roof space has value, at least, and there are easement issues there as well. Which kind of brings into what I was going to touch on. This is pretty quick. And then Tim, I know we're going to touch on the Enphase monitoring system. But
just looking at-
yeah, there's a lot of news articles recently about homeowners associations causing problems for solar. And this is kind of like your ordinance with the city of Houston. But I hadn't really realized that there are over 370,000 homeowners associations in the country, and they control 40 million households, which is 53% of all of the owner-occupied homes in America. So basically, this is the majority of the owner-occupied homes. And they could be problematic. If you may recall, we had a fellow on here for a number of sessions who was doing a battle with his homeowners association where they were trying to restrict his ability to put solar in his yard. So they came in after he started building saying, you got to tear it down. He was putting in a ground mounted system. Well, the issue there in Illinois, Illinois is one of those states. There are 25 states currently in the country that have laws in place that protect you from your homeowners association. Essentially, the laws say your homeowners association can't make rules that prohibit you from installing solar on your roof if they cause you to not have optimal maximum receiving of the sun, and they increase the cost of the project by at least 10%. That's kind of a guiding line. They can require you to get permission from them. They can submit architectural plans, and a lot of them restrict where it can be placed, to keep you from putting it where it could be seen from the public spaces, you know, from the front. So let's say put it on the side of the house or the back of the house. Although even some of that is not necessarily enforceable, because if the back of the house is the north side of the house, it obviously is going to increase the cost of your system. So there's some debate there. Some of the states that have these laws, like Florida, Maryland, New Jersey, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia, California, Arizona, Ohio. I didn't get the full 25 states. Some of them that don't have, like Indiana, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania. Well, Indiana, there were a bunch of activity going on right now, where people are protesting. There's a law at the state legislature trying to give people homeowners rights. There are some exceptions for historic districts. But what I found kind of interesting when I was looking at this is there's also solar easement laws. Usually they go along with this. And I hadn't really thought about it, but it's basically an easement agreement between your neighbors to prevent them from blocking sunlight hitting your solar panels. And this usually involves discussion about keeping your trees trimmed, not building any buildings that are going to block the sunlight, things of that nature. It didn't really get into how you get your neighbors to agree to this, you know, or what penalties are in effect if they don't agree to it. But it is apparently something else to consider when you're building, you know, that you might want to get an easement agreement in place between your immediate neighbors when you're doing an installation where you have people nearby. And there is some ancient law, Old English law, that does protect you. And I found that it's actually referred to as ancient light. And the idea, it was actually put down in writing in 1832 that if you've enjoyed the sunlight for a period of 20 years, it's yours by divine right, basically. So, you know, and this has come into play in a number of lawsuits where it's come. There was one famous one down in Florida where a hotel, I think it was down in St. Petersburg area, another hotel was built next to it. And then in the afternoons, the building shaded the swimming pool area, which was kind of a pain since everybody wanted to sit out in the sun. They took them to court and they won because basically this Old English doctrine of ancient light came into play. So unless you want to hire an old ancient lawyer, you might want to try and get an agreement with your neighbors. And of course, 20 years, well, you haven't been having solar for 20 years. They also
like eminent sun.
Yeah, it's some of that. Now we've seen some with like views of the ocean where you can't build something right in front of you that blocks your views or whatever. But sunlight's going to be a bigger issue there. And then there were some approval strategies. I always find these happy, you know, or interesting when they say how to get your system approved by the homeowners association. First is know the law so that you can go in there and say, hey, you don't have the right to stop me. That's always received very nicely by people in those situations. Find out what their rules are. Be flexible. You know, I found mostly this comes into play. What is the objection? You know, a lot of people will object, but they don't state what the real issue is. You know, is it aesthetics? Is it, you know, they hate solar? You know, what is that? I know that the fellow who was bringing it up with his homeowners association is he used to be on the homeowners association board, and one of the guys on the board just hated his guts. So that was it. Now he ended up, because most of these laws that protect you for rooftop systems are silent about ground mounted systems. So if you come in with a ground mounted, most of these laws won't protect you. So I think, Bob, do you remember the guy's name? Was it Chris? I think it was Chris. anyway, he ended up winning his case because the law basically said the homeowners association had X number of days to file a specific form to object, and they didn't follow through within that time limit. So he came back and said, hey, you know, you're in violation of the law, nothing you can do about it. So that was where he won. So it was all, again, knowing the laws. The last one for how to get these through is to educate the homeowners association about the glories of solar. Well, good luck with that. So I'll let you guys take that one on, because I found
Pretty bad.
that officials love to be educated, you know, especially by the people they're regulating. So, you know.
I can't even put an antenna for my TV outside the window.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I live where there are no rules. It's anarchy. So Don and I live in the heart of Appalachia.
Right.
Where rules are
Anarchy's
made.
good.
Yeah, the rules are made at the end of a gun.
I think it's the goats that make the rules.
Okie doke. So anybody have any comments on that, on the homeowners association thing, before we jump into the, yeah, Tim?
Actually, the solar rights came from the Romans.
Oh, did they?
And yes, and of course the English took them over.
Uh-huh.
But that's really about it. I put in a link in there regarding solar rights. Things
So
like that.
we can add this to the Monty Python list of what have the Romans ever done for us, right?
I don't know if it's about the Romans, but it's a business journal article or paper or something. It's interesting.
Wait a minute, you're talking about my ancestors here.
Okie doke. So Tim, if you want to bring up the idea, I know you're just sort of getting into monitoring your array with the Enphase, and you were a little bit confused. I've got it up where I can share the screen when we go in, but what specifically, did you just want me to walk through it and give kind of an overview?
Well, let's look at it. I want to just get a better reading on what they're trying to tell me on the.
Okay.
Let me get it up for you.
No, I'll bring it up. Yeah, this is the registration page there, but yeah, this is in case you're doing installations for multiple people. When we installed Tim's system earlier this year, it went in under as the installer, even though I wasn't the installer. So if you're putting in systems, you can see many, many different ones, monitor them all from your home. And this is the Enlightened part of Enphase. So if I go into Tim's system, and the customer should have access to this as well. This is what Tim was playing around with recently. So you've got 10 panels on your little pavilion there. And so this is giving you your energy production for today. And that's, looks like they're, 500 watt hours, basically. Looks like the top row gets a little bit more sunlight than the bottom row. And then if you want to look at it.
Can you scroll it down? Just scroll it down a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of my pictures of people that are blocking me. You see that?
Yeah, so the 289.65 kilowatt hours, that's been for the month? Is that an accumulation?
Yeah, that's the month so far. And of course, the month's almost over. So it looks like you're going to be in the neighborhood of 300 kilowatt hours per month for the month of November.
Yeah, so let's look back at a little bit of history on this and see what it did last month.
Yeah, well, if I
okay,
yeah, you can go into reports up here. And you can select a report. And let's say I go into yearly production. And this is going to show you the various production during the months. Now, yours was installed late in June, so you can kind of ignore June. But July, you had 560 kilowatt hours. August, 518. September, 500. October, 335. And now November, 284 so far. So that's just showing you month to month to month. Does that make sense?
So the winters really make a big difference in a way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Have you noticed that on your array?
Yeah, in fact, I'll show you what my array, just to show you that what you're getting is not inconsistent. Mine's quite a bit bigger than yours, but
Yeah.
if I look at the yearly production report here, then we'll see January 417, February 523, and then March it doubled, you know, up to about 1,000, 1,100, 1,100, 1,100, 1,000, and then down to 690, 663.
November.
So
Okay.
what I find with my system is the production that I get from March through basically November, maybe October, is more than enough to handle all of my needs. But for November, December, January, and February, I typically end up having to draw from the grid. So, and of course, that's largely because of our heating units up in the barn for water, things of that nature.
So you have 30 panels? I see 30 microinverters.
Yeah, I
Okay,
have 30.
so that's 3 times as much as mine.
Yeah, except
that's-
yours are newer. Yours are newer and bigger. You know,
Uh-huh.
mine are 250 watt panels. I think you've got
Okay.
400 watt panels.
Yeah, 400 watt.
Yeah.
So reading this chart on the right, it's got today I produced 5 kilowatt hours so far.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying, and that's the week, the month to date, lifetime. So what are they going on, a 30-year lifetime or?
No, this is so since you installed it.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's showing you that your inverters are generating 245.7 volts. So, you know, that's basically matching your grid. So that's going to be different for each location, but it's going to be around 240 volts, you know, plus or minus 5%.
so if my kilowatts go up to 500 for a month, that will my volts be somewhere close to 400 or 500?
No. The volts should remain steady. That's just, it's matching whatever's coming from the grid. So,
Oh, matching, okay.
So you know, we talk about it's 240 volts, but it's not really. It's 240 volts plus or minus about 5%. That's where the grid operates for residential housing. Now you can also come in and look at, you know, your energy production for yesterday, the past 7 days, month to date. So if you wanted to look, it'll tell you each panel. With your system, the panels are pretty consistent. With some, you might have a little shading over here. You may find that panel is not consistent. But if you want to look at power, power will show throughout the day. So this plays like a little movie. I'll slow it down. So basically at dawn, it starts generating, and by noon, you know, right here is probably going to be as good as you're going to get today. 228 watts per, that's right at 11. It may go up a little bit. You know, that's power, not energy. So this is just showing with a typical bell curve, you're going to see if it's not cloudy. So let's say if yesterday for power, come on, what's the deal? I should have, all right, let's say past 7 days. Oh, I wonder why.
You know, I thought I saw something in there. My microinverters weren't connected to something.
Oh, they weren't reporting?
I think so, and I don't know where that was at. I forget.
Huh. Well, I'll jump into mine just to
Okay, show
show you
demonstration.
something where it shows you the power curves. If I show the past 7 days, kind of interesting, you can get a weather report. I mean, look at it, these, like this day, obviously some clouds. Then this day, it was dreary and almost no production, 2 days in a row. But obviously today, it's almost pure, no clouds in the sky.
Mhm.
Well, until now. Is it dropping
Until, yeah,
down?
just-
It
Well,
just
no,
get
our
cloudy?
skies, that just drops off. It hasn't yet reported.
Okay,
So this is a 7-day report?
Yeah, this is just showing me 7 days. But it's interesting because my panels, you can see here, are only at, like, I've got it in 2 different places. So these are the 290 watt panels, and these are the 250 watt panels over here. So these are showing 173 watts, and these are showing 214. Now, that's pretty much at noon. So because the sun's lower in the horizon, you're not getting the maximum. But if I were to go to, I think I can do a custom date. If I go back into the summertime, let's go into August. All right. All right, is that not going to show me that? It may not have that information stored that long. Huh. Well, what you would have seen, if it would let me, let's try and do a shorter period of time, see if that'll do it. No, I must not maintain that data that long. But it will show you that in the summertime, these panels will basically be producing at their maximum. So my system's produced 46.99 megawatt hours since I installed it. Now, remember about RECs, if I had been receiving $200 a REC, which is what it was when I first installed it, except Ohio passed some laws that did away with it, with the whole REC idea. You get $200 for each one of these. So 47 times 200, almost 10,000 bucks.
Damn.
To just for the sale of RECs.
And
Since
some states have RECs?
Yeah, some states do, not very many. If memory serves, I know it's not a state, but Washington DC has the best. Then I think, I know not Illinois, but Pennsylvania has RECs. Massachusetts, there are only about 6 or 7 now that still have RECs. But it was quite an incentive to install a system, to sign up for the RECs.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That would
all
pay
right.
off the system as well.
anything else in the displays that anyone has any questions? Because these things can be monitored from your computer, like we're doing here, from your phone. It's quite handy. But if you go out and install for somebody else, they're going to want to play with this. It's sort of like what Tim is bringing up. I want to be able to go in and see what's happening, what's going on, if there's a problem. You can see, for instance, with my array, I have a systemic problem with one of the panels. This panel right here is shaded just a little bit. So if I wanted to look at the power from yesterday, for instance, and I come down and bring it up, you'll see as sun starts to hit early in the morning, this panel
Not kicking in.
here is shaded. It gets shaded just a little bit from this array. And these panels over here, there's a big willow tree that sort of blocks a little bit of the sun as dawn comes up. So you can see that happening on the solar array. Then eventually at a certain time of day, right about now, so 9 o'clock, 9:15, the shadow on here is gone. These are still a little bit shaded over here. Then of course, as the sun travels, now at this point, everybody's receiving pretty much equal sunlight. So you can see the effect of shading. This was one of the reasons why microinverters or optimizers are so good, because in the old days, if
Couldn't see
these
that.
things were hooked together in a string, right here, all the panels would only be producing 21 watts. because they all go with the lowest common denominator when they're hooked together in a string. So having them individually monitored gives me quite a lot more production, you know, especially in a situation like this where there is some shading going on.
So it would show that that whole string was doing 21 watts, but would they actually be all governing each other to only produce 21 watts, or would it just show you that?
No, it would be if they were all in a string without individual module level power electronics like microinverters or optimizers.
So it's almost like a governor in a way, huh?
Yeah, whatever the worst one is doing is what they all do. You
Why don't they
know?
reverse that? So the highest one is the one that.
Just, you know, it doesn't work that way. It's like reversing gravity.
As soon as we figure out gravity, it will, you know.
That's right. But this is really handy, and I have had occasions where, of course, a microinverter just stops working. Well, in that case, that microinverter would show that panel is dead. You know, it just simply wouldn't be producing anything. So, and oh, speaking of that, if you do have a problem, if you go up here, somewhere, oh yeah, right here, click here to initiate a self-service warranty claim. So in that case, if I had an inverter that was down, you just simply click in here and it's going to ask you, you know, what you want to do, how you want to do it. And when I went through that process, and I've got a video on our website, it's pretty straightforward. It asks you the reference number of that particular microinverter. And you can get that when you come over here and you look at devices. You know, these devices are going to be listed, and it will tell you what is the serial number, what's the part number, you know, what's going on. And here it's telling me all these are operating normally, but if one of them was down, I would get a message saying that one's down. And then I just copy and paste that number and put it into my warranty claim. With Enphase, when I submitted the warranty claim, I did it online like this. A couple of days later, they sent me an email and said, yeah, we've looked at it. Your claim is valid. We're going to be shipping you a replacement. When you get it, take the old one, stick it in the box. It was a postage paid box. Send it back to us. So straightforward, easy. You know, of course, being a ground mounted system, it was quite easy to replace it. I didn't have to pull up panels or anything. I could just climb in underneath and, you know, one little bolt, remove it. Of course, shut down the system before you do it. That's always a good thing.
You know, think of the logistics of that is, I wonder if it'd be good to just place all your microinverters in a separate spot where you have super easy access to them. It wouldn't have to move with the array. Because I could see where that would be a real pain in the butt in my system.
Yeah, I guess you could do that, although ideally these things don't break down, but you'd have a lot of wiring issues, a lot of, you know, these things are really designed to be mounted on the rail right underneath the panel. So you'd have to get, you know, extenders, and you'd be dealing with some voltage drop issues, I guess, depending on how far away they go.
How much wire you use?
Yeah, yours is, yeah, I mean, worst case is you got to remove the panels or remove a panel or a couple of them to get to it. Usually not a huge hairy deal, you know, so, and hopefully it doesn't happen. You know, I've had this since 2014, and I've had one microinverter go bad. And of course, the good news was they sent me a brand new microinverter when they replaced it. So I'm thinking, man, I hope they all go bad because I want all these new microinverters. In fact, I think you can even see here in the system, the one that's the one I replaced is this one, and see consistently it's producing better than all of the other panels in my system. So whatever they've done with the recent microinverters, they work even better but it's rated for the same everything, same watts, same voltage, same everything. So whatever they did is increase the efficiency of it. So that's a good thing. All right, any other questions on this?
I have a
Yeah.
question, Jay.
Sure.
When I go into my system, I don't have anything that looks like this. If I click on my array, it's blank. Is that because the person that set it up didn't put anything in there, or can I add that?
Yeah, you can add it. You know, you're gonna have to know what are the numbers of each microinverter, where they're located.
Okay.
When you installed it, they have those little peel off labels, and you typically stick those onto a grid. And then when you're constructing this, you map out which one is where. So
Okay.
visually, you know where it is. So you might have to, is yours a roof mounted or ground mounted?
Roof mount.
Yeah, so good luck with that, trying to know what number goes with which one.
Yeah.
You could randomly assign them so that you can monitor, you know, it's not going to be exact, but it'll give you production numbers.
Okay.
And when you go to do it, there are some videos online about how to set it up the initial time, but it's
Okay.
pretty simple. It's just going to ask you to lay out the grid, how it looks visually, and then it's going to give you a list of devices that are in your system, and you just drag and drop them into the
Okay.
box, and then
Okay.
it's all set. But I don't want to pretend that it's easy once you've figured out how to do it, but it might take you a couple of hours to figure out exactly how to do it. Because
Okay. No problem.
yeah, if you need some help, let me know. I can maybe try and remember what I did last time. Yeah, Bob?
On, let's say, Enphase 7 series and down, if you lose power and then regain it again, does it automatically reconnect?
Yeah, but it has a 5-minute delay to resynchronize up with the grid. And I have found that it does remember the data for at least a week. You know, so let's say that your grid goes down, or that more often what's happening with mine is that my modem connection goes down. And so it's not reporting, and you'll get a message saying your array is not reporting. And it's just because it's connected in through my home modem. And if that's down, it has no way of getting the data. But the microinverters clearly have some sort of storage capacity where they remember the data, that because they send out this data every 5 minutes over the power lines, but it stores it, and it's stored it for at least a week. I've had it where it's been down for more than that, and then it rebuilds the database after it reconnects. So it doesn't show up that you didn't generate any power. Any other
Just
questions?
where did that power go?
Oh, well, my array was still working. It's just that my modem was not reporting anything.
Oh, okay.
But if the array is not working, then of course there's no data to send, and it will show that there's no power being generated because the array wasn't working. And I've had that happen too, where, you know, it goes out, and we had a short circuit in one of the, you know, half of the array. So for a period of 2 weeks, while I was waiting for the electrician to come out and fix the service panel box, half the array generated no power. And it showed that when everything was re-put back together, it showed that half of the array just didn't generate anything for 2 weeks.
What if the grid is down? Then I guess automatically your array turns off completely. It's
Yeah,
not generating
unless of course you've got
a battery.
battery backup, and then it would just be operating per normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, it's very handy to have. All right, any other questions for the good of the cause?
It's a lot of help. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, and Chris, if you need some help on that, let me know, because you may
Okay,
have to
Jay,
set up,
thank you.
you may have to set up your Enphase account and all of that. So,
Okay, I got all that stuff. Yeah, I'll look and see if I can find the numbers when I'm up there sometime.
Okay. All right, well, see you guys all next week. Take care.
Thank you.